right, so we're back for another deep dive. You know how we do it here. We cut through all noise and try to get to the most interesting stuff.
Absolutely. You know, basketball never sleeps, especially this time of year.
Especially this time of year. So we've got, all the playoff races heating up. And we've got a really good YouTube video here to dig into.
Yeah, this one covers a lot of ground. I mean, it's not just like game summaries or, box scores.
Right.
It's like really analyzing, some trends and how teams and players are doing and, what it all means.
Exactly. And that's what we like, so that's what we're going to try to do for you is take this information and just give you kind of the highlights.
Yeah.
So you don't have to, watch the whole thing.
The key insights. Yeah.
So let's jump right in. I think the first team that they talked about was the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, the Bulls.
And, they've won 7 of their last 9 games or something like that.
Yep, 7 of 9.
Which is, I wouldn't say that's, setting the world on fire.
Right.
But it's not bad.
Especially considering they traded away Zach LaVine.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So at the trade deadline, they traded away Zach LaVine.
Right.
And I think that changed their draft pick situation.
So before the trade, their draft pick was lottery protected, meaning that if it landed in the top 6,
right,
they would keep. If it fell outside the top 6, it would go to the Orlando Magic.
Okay.
As part of the Nikola Vucevic trade from a few years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
But after the LaVine trade, they got their full draft rights back.
Okay.
So now they control their own pick no matter where it lands.
So they don't have to worry about the lottery.
Exactly. No more sweating it out on lottery night.
Okay, good for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I was saying, 7 out of 9. Isn't amazing. But I guess some of those wins were.
Yeah, some of those wins were against, not the toughest opponents. Like they beat the Jazz when the Jazz were on the second night of a back-to-back.
Right.
And, the Lakers haven't been exactly world beaters lately. But the analysts did point out that the Bulls had a really good road trip out west.
Okay.
So it wasn't all just, beating up on bad teams.
Right.
They did have some, impressive wins.
And Kobe White has been playing really well.
He has. Since the trade deadline, he's been averaging like 24 points a game.
Wow.
On 46% shooting, which is pretty solid.
Yeah.
His three-point shooting hasn't been quite as good, but he's definitely become more of a scorer.
All right, but they traded away LaVine. And they could still end up with like the 10th pick in the draft or something.
Yeah, the analyst was kind of chuckling about that. Like
they
might have just stayed put and ended up with basically the same draft pick.
Right. So what was the point of the trade?
That's a good question. I mean, maybe they got some other assets in the trade.
Right.
Or maybe they just wanted to shake things up.
Yep.
But it doesn't seem like the trade really moved the needle for them that much.
Right. And their coach, Billy Donovan, he said that he wants to build a team with like 9 or 10 really good players.
Yeah.
Instead of, like 1 or 2 superstars.
Right. And the analyst was like, yeah, that's what you say when you don't have any superstars.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's a nice idea, but it's not really how you win championships in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, the Warriors had Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And Steph Curry.
Right. I mean, you need at least one superstar to be a contender.
Yeah.
And the Bulls just don't have that right now.
Right. They're trying to make do with what they have.
Exactly.
Which is admirable, but it's probably not going to get them very far.
Right.
So what about their rookie, Matas Buzelis?
So he's gotten more playing time since the trade deadline.
Okay.
And his scoring has gone up.
Okay.
He's averaging like 12 points a game.
Right.
But his three-point shooting has dipped a little bit.
Okay.
But he did have a good game against the Lakers. He hit 5 threes.
Oh, wow.
So he's showing some promise.
Yeah. Okay, so the Bulls, they're in the play-in tournament mix, right?
They are, yeah. They're not too far behind the Orlando Magic for the last spot in the play-in.
Okay, so they could make some noise.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it's unlikely that they'll actually make the playoffs.
Right.
But they could definitely cause some trouble in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, okay.
Especially if Kobe White keeps playing like this.
Right. So speaking of players who are playing well,
yeah,
Josh Giddey has been amazing.
He has been on fire.
Since the trade deadline.
Yeah, since the deadline, he's averaging over 20 points a game.
Wow.
Shooting like 55% from the field and 40% from 3.
Wow.
And he's still getting like 8 rebounds and 6 assists.
Wow. So he's doing it all.
Yeah, he's been incredible.
And the analyst was saying that the Thunder didn't get enough back for him in the trade.
Yeah, I mean, they got a protected first-round pick from the Clippers.
Okay.
But considering how well Giddey is playing,
right,
they probably could have gotten more.
Yeah. Okay, so from a team that's surprisingly winning to a team that's surprisingly struggling.
Uh-huh.
The Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, the Lakers are in a bit of a rut right now.
Yeah, they just lost to the Bulls.
Yeah, and LeBron and Rui Hachimura were both back.
Right, so they had a pretty healthy roster.
Yeah.
And they still lost.
Yeah, wasn't a good look.
And Luka Doncic just torched them a few days before that.
Yeah, Luka went off in the first half of that game.
Yeah, so they've lost 4 of their last 6.
Yeah, and they've got 7 games in 10 days coming up.
Oh, wow.
So it's a tough stretch for them.
Yeah, and since LeBron got hurt earlier this season, they've fallen from 2nd in the West to 4th.
Yeah, they've been slipping.
And now they've got this 4-game road trip coming up.
Yeah, they're going to the East Coast.
Right.
They're playing Orlando, Indiana, Chicago, and Memphis.
Wow.
So that's a tough road trip.
Yeah, those are all teams that are playing well.
Yeah, so the Lakers could be in trouble.
Yeah, okay, so the Western Conference playoff race is a mess.
It is a total mess.
Nobody wants to be the 7th seed.
Nope, because then you have to play the 2nd seed.
Right, and right now, the Houston Rockets are looking like they might be the 2nd seed.
Yeah, they've been really good, and they have a pretty easy schedule down the stretch.
Okay, so everybody's trying to avoid them.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what about the other contenders?
Well, the Nuggets have lost a couple of games recently.
Okay.
And Jokic has been dealing with an ankle injury.
Oh, no.
So they're not at full strength.
Right.
The Grizzlies are also dealing with some injuries.
Oh, right.
Brandon Clark is out for the season.
Oh, wow.
And John Morant has a hamstring strain.
Okay, so they're banged up.
Yeah.
But the Warriors are playing well.
They are.
The Clippers are playing well.
Yep.
And the Timberwolves are playing well.
Yeah, the West is wide open right now.
So what's the current projection?
So as of Sunday morning, the projections had the Thunder first,
Wow.
the Rockets second,
Okay.
the Nuggets third,
All right.
the Lakers fourth,
Okay.
then the Grizzlies, Warriors, Clippers, and Timberwolves.
Wow. That's so close.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy finish to the season.
All right, so let's move on to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Cavaliers have lost 4 in a row,
Yeah, they're in a bit of a slump.
and they got blown out by the Suns.
Yeah, Kevin Durant had 42 points in that game,
Wow.
and the Cavs just had no answer for him.
Okay.
They've also been really bad at defending the three-point line during this losing streak.
Okay.
Teams are just shooting lights out against them.
So what's going on?
Well, Mitchell and Garland haven't been shooting the ball well since the All-Star break.
Really?
Yeah, Mitchell's three-point percentage has dropped from like 39% to 28%,
Wow.
and Garland's has gone from 43% to 31%.
So they're both in a slump.
Yeah, and that's a big problem for the Cavs because those guys are their 2 best players.
Right.
And Mitchell has a history of core muscle injuries.
Oh, it's not good.
Yeah, so there's some concern that he might be dealing with that again.
Right.
But even with this slump, they're still comfortably in 3rd place in the East.
Okay.
So they're not in any real danger of falling out of the playoffs.
Right.
But the analysts did say that they might get a warm-up series in the first round.
Meaning they might play a team that's not very good,
Right.
which could be good for them because it would give them a chance to get back on track
Yeah.
before they face a tougher opponent.
Right. Okay, so the Suns are rolling.
Yeah. They've won 5 in a row,
Okay.
and their owner, Matt Ishbia, has been saying all the right things.
Okay.
He's been very supportive of the team and the coaching staff. So there's a lot of positive energy around the Suns right now.
Okay, but they have a tough schedule coming up.
They do. Yeah. They've got one of the toughest remaining schedules in the league.
Okay, so we'll see if they can keep this up.
Yeah.
The Mavericks are also playing well.
Yeah. They've won 4 in a row.
Okay.
And most importantly, everyone's healthy.
Okay.
So they're finally at full strength.
Right.
And they're looking like a real contender.
So both the Suns and the Mavericks are trying to get that 10th seed.
Yeah, because that's the last spot in the play-in.
Right.
And whoever gets it will avoid having to play in the first round of the play-in.
Right. But the Suns have a much tougher schedule than the Mavericks.
Right, so the Mavericks have a better chance.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so what about the rest of the East?
Well, the Nets are interesting.
Okay.
They've lost a lot of close games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that's actually good for them because it means they're getting a better draft pick.
Oh, right.
So they're not really trying to win right now.
Right? They're tanking.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
The Heat have fallen off a cliff.
Wow.
They were a top 4 seed for most of the season,
Right?
but now they're barely hanging on to a play-in spot.
Wow. What happened?
I don't know. They've just been really inconsistent,
Okay.
and they've had some injuries.
Right.
But they're just not the same team that they were earlier in the season.
So what about the Knicks?
So Jalen Brunson is still out.
Yeah.
He's going to be reevaluated in a week.
Okay.
So he'll probably be out for at least another couple of weeks.
Okay.
And they just lost to the Wizards.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they had a big lead and they blew it.
Wow, so they're struggling without Brunson.
Yeah, they are.
But the Pacers are playing really well.
They are, yeah. They're one of the hottest teams in the league right now.
Huh?
They've won like 10 of their last 13.
Wow.
And they're doing it with defense. They're holding opponents to under 100 points a game.
Wow.
And they're really good at winning close games.
Okay.
They've won 4 games in the last 6 weeks where they were trailing in the last 20 seconds.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So they could be a tough out in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody wants to play him.
Nope.
And Tyrese Halliburton has been great.
He has, yeah. He's averaging like 10 assists a game.
Wow.
And he just came back from a hamstring injury on Saturday.
Oh, good.
So he's healthy and he's playing well.
All right, so the Knicks and the Cavs still have 2 games left against each other.
Yeah, those games are going to be huge.
Yeah, they could determine who gets the 4th seed in the East.
Yeah. And home court advantage in the first round.
Right.
So those are must-win games for both teams.
And the Clippers are playing the Nets tonight.
Yeah, that should be a good one.
Yeah.
The Clippers are trying to hold on to a playoff spot.
Right.
And the Nets are trying to improve their draft position.
Right. So both teams have something to play for.
Exactly.
All right. So there were a few other things that they talked about in the video.
Yeah, like what?
Like contract negotiations and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think that's really that important.
Yeah, it's not really relevant to the playoff race.
Right. So we could skip that.
Okay.
So what are the key takeaways from all this?
Well, I think the biggest one is that the playoff races are wide open.
Yeah.
In both conferences.
Right.
There are a lot of teams that could make a run, and there are a lot of teams that could fall apart.
Yeah. So it's going to be an exciting finish to the season.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So here's a thought for you.
Okay.
Which team do you think is going to be the biggest surprise in the playoffs?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of possibilities. But I think I'm going to go with the Indiana Pacers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think they're going to be a tough out.
Why do you think that?
Well, they're playing really well right now.
Right.
They have a great defense.
Okay.
And they have a lot of different guys who can score.
Right.
So I think they could make some noise in the playoffs.
Okay. So you think they're going to overperform?
Yeah, I think they're going to exceed expectations.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yep. It's going to be fun to watch.
All right. Thanks for joining me for another deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll be back soon with more basketball analysis.
You see you then.
All right. Take care.
You too.